Welcome back to Brands Without Borders, the podcast for online entrepreneurs who want to break out of the old way of doing business and see the world while they're at it. I'm your host, Katie Smith, an art director, brand strategist, and the founder of DropCap Design, where I've been building brands from the road since 2014. Each week, I'll bring you stories from abroad while breaking down the fundamentals of how I build story-driven, influential online brands that break the mold. So go ahead, put yourself out there. I've got your back. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm super excited for today's episode, which is a typical work day in my life down here in Costa Rica. If you're tuning in as a podcast, I want to let you know that there's a visual component to today's episode over on YouTube, and you're kind of going to want to see this one because I've included a lot of video and footage of my actual life here in Costa Rica, and I'm not going to lie, the visual portion's pretty good on this one. So go on over to YouTube, subscribe, take a look at episode number 3 of Brands Without Borders, and yeah, you're in for a treat. Today's episode was inspired because I've had friends and family back home ask, like, what does a typical day look like for you living abroad? I mean, you live in a vacation destination. I bet you're surfing every day. You're on the beach. When are you getting work done? How does that look for you? Your life must be amazing. You're on vacation 24/7. Not the case. I'm definitely working normal hours. Sometimes I work more than normal on a busy week. There are days where I don't even make it down to the ocean because I have obligations to my clients and my team. So I want to walk you through what a typical day looks like. Now, granted, I know you know this. No 2 days in your own life are exactly the same, and the same goes for me. I have routines that I do almost every day. There are some variables that shift how I schedule my time. I'll discuss how I plan my day out accordingly to where I am and the fact that I am down here to surf. And I want to share some of the challenges of working abroad and what I do to overcome them. So this is a fun one, especially if you are not sure if working abroad is for you, because it is definitely a mental adjustment going from traveling for vacation and traveling to live, because you do have to take your work and your normal life responsibilities with you. And the first time that I ever worked abroad, I remember I had all of this guilt thinking I'm in a beautiful place, I'm in paradise, and I'm behind a computer answering emails. Like, am I not taking full advantage of my time here? Am I lazy? And the answer was no. Me working was allowing me to be there longer than a weekend. And so taking some time to work on my business, to keep the income coming in, is allowing me to travel and live abroad. So it's a huge mental adjustment, but you find a sweet spot, because another reason that I love to travel while working is it innately creates some balance in my life. I'm a natural workaholic. I would work all day, every day if I could. I love what I do. I am incredibly passionate. I love my clients. I would work from sunup to sundown every single day and be relatively happy, but it's not balanced, and it does lead to burnout. Even the things that you love the most, when done without any boundaries or structure, is going to inevitably lead to stress and burnout. And when I'm traveling, I'm excited to explore a new place. I'm forming new friendships. I have activities that are off my computer and out in the world around me. And so it inevitably helps me create a little bit more balance in my work day, prioritize what's actually needed from me and my business and not just busy work or trying to keep up. And it keeps me focused on the actual way that I want to live my life, instead of just living behind a computer screen, building a business all the time, because I have more depth than that. You have more depth than that. And we're just more well-rounded humans than just somebody fulfilling orders behind a screen. Okay, so now that we've gone there, I want to say that when thinking about my workday here in Costa Rica and anywhere that I'm moving for the first time, change and moving disrupts your routine. It's a new environment, new challenges, new ways of creating visual reminders to do things throughout the day. So if you've ever read The Power of Habits, I think that's the book, The Power of Habits, where there are these visual triggers in your day that remind you subconsciously to do certain actions. Now, if you're moving and traveling all the time, those triggers or visual reminders are constantly getting disrupted. So it can often feel like you're trying to get in routine all the time and that your day doesn't have a lot of structure to it, which is true. It's a challenge to re-invite these reminders and subconscious routines into your life. So what I like to do is start with, what is my goal for being here? Now in Costa Rica, my goal is to surf as much as possible, to get immersed in the culture. So learning Spanish, meeting friends, being part of the community, and cultivate really healthy habits that get me outside. I love a tropical climate. I love being outside by the beach. I want to get out of the house, away from the computer, and build in more healthy routine that I can then take with me. That's something that I experienced last year being down here that I took with me through the rest of the summer in Montana. And I'm one of the reasons that I came back. I just am a healthier, more balanced person after living for a season in Costa Rica. Now, this time that I was down here, one of my intentions was to meet more people. I really kept to myself last year a lot. I worked, I surfed, I did the things that I wanted to do personally, but I really didn't make friends. I knew I was down here temporarily. I was going through my own things. And this time I wanted to get more involved in the community because I knew this is probably a place I'm going to keep coming back to. And what's interesting about Playa Negra in Costa Rica is that it actually has a pretty large French community. And I came down here thinking that Spanish is really the language that I was wanting to learn. And it's funny because most of the friends that I've met down here are actually French. And one of the things that I love about my French friends is that they have such a healthy view on work and personal life. They work hard for short spurts to fund the life that they want to lead. And they are not prone to overwork or working more than they need to sustain their ideal life. My friend Maggie, who's down here, talks about back home, she works 4 days on, 3 days off. And on some weeks, it's 3 days on, 4 days off. And I was sitting looking at my current workload and I was like, I'm working 6 days a week with 1 day of rest. And this is completely out of balance. So I'm not entirely there yet, but I'm working towards the 4 days on, 3 days off, because I do think it's important to have this close to 50-50 lifestyle where we're prioritizing our work and our purpose in the world, but we're balancing it with building a life that we really enjoy being in and not hiding behind the busyness of work because there's something in our personal life that we need to change or improve. So another reason that I'm down here is to surf. And one of the things about surfing is that the tides change every day. And the best time, most optimal time to surf, and in some cases, the safest time to surf is mid to high tide. And that time frame is going to change every day. Another thing is that the wave size is going to change based on if there's a swell or not. So some days the conditions are right, meaning it's not super windy, the tide is at the right time of day, and the waves are not too big, and they're not too small. And I'll base my day's routine around that window. So that window could be 5 a.m., it could be noon, it could be sunset at 4, anytime in between. So I'm constantly looking at my app, Surfline, to see what the conditions are like in the nearby closest beaches. So there's Avianas, Playa Negra, Junquial, to see what the conditions are like and then plan my day around that accordingly. So I'm going to tell you what one typical day would look like. And yeah, some days it changes and things are interchangeable, just like normal life back home. So my favorite is when the conditions are good in the early morning for a sunrise session. That is my favorite time to be in the water. It's less crowded, it's not as hot, and I can still be at work at a reasonable hour. So on those days, I'll usually wake up around 4:30. And because the climate is so hot and it gets light so early, it's not as hard as you would think to wake up at that time. My internal clock doesn't wake up much later than that. Usually the night before, I've put my board on the car. And my longboard is this beige, sage green, beautiful South Pacific longboard that I call Matcha Latte because it really does change based on light. I'm obsessed with it. Love her so much. We'll take her down to the ocean and try to be in the water paddling out by 5. On days when it's really good in the morning, I'll be out there for an hour and a half to 2 hours, see friends out in the water, catch a couple of waves, enjoy sunrise, and then paddle back in around 6:45 or 7. Now, if the conditions are better for later in the day, I'll sometimes opt to go to yoga in the morning instead, which is at 7 o'clock. So most mornings I'm either in the water surfing or in what I call jungle yoga. Both are so relaxing and the perfect way to start the day with a little bit of outdoor activity, and really just sets the mood for the entire rest of the workday. So after surfing or yoga, I'll come back home, take a cold shower to wash the salt water or the heat off, listen to a podcast. And right now I have been listening to Hillary Rushford's You're Welcome podcast. She's in the middle of a 3-part series talking about the chaos surrounding her book publishing process. And it's been really intriguing. And I like to listen to it while I'm getting ready for the day because my plan is always to be at the computer working by 9. But before I sit down to work, I'll make a pot of coffee, and I have been using this protein powder that I brought back from the States called Just Ingredients. It's snickerdoodle flavored. It is packed with protein. It's the perfect post-surf breakfast. It's delicious in your coffee, and I have been so addicted to it. I would have to, if I were here longer, have to go back and load up on this every couple months. Like I wish I had brought more, but it's wonderful and definitely gets me through the morning. I also like to just take a couple of minutes on the porch or in the hammock, meditating, making a list of what I need to do that day, clearing my mind, just taking a breather before jumping straight onto the computer screen or my email inbox. I like to use the app 10% Happier, or sometimes I'll go into the Melissa Wood Health app, which I love using her workout classes, and I'll listen to a meditation, or I'll YouTube something, but I'll do a little guided meditation, listen to a little bit of music. Sometimes I'll journal, usually not. I'm pretty ready to start the day at this point, but the mental clear is super important. Just remembering what's important before I feel like people need my time and my obligations increase. So it's a little gift to myself to meditate in the morning before everything begins. Now, as far as self-care goes, after the shower, I always put on sunscreen. That has been my biggest lesson from last year to this year. I'm usually pretty good at sunscreen, but you don't realize being here how much it accumulates day to day, just walking to the cafe or walking out to the beach. And so I like to use Kiehl's SPF 50 on my face. It's great for sensitive skin. I'll also put in a lot of leave-in conditioner. I condition my hair every day, sometimes twice a day. I put in hair SPF, which is a new thing that my friend Micah told me to do this time around to help keep my hair from drying out or my scalp from sunburning. I'll put in leave-in conditioner. My hair is always drying out with the salt water and the heat. And so I do a lot to try to keep it healthy because at the length that it currently is, it's a real quick path towards looking like a feral animal. So in the house that I'm renting, it's kind of like a little bit bigger than a shipping container. And there is a laundry hookup area, but no washer dryer. I use my landlord Kato's washer and dryer, but instead of closing off that laundry hookup, I just put a media console in there that doubles as a desk. I bought an office chair and I covered up the washer dryer input with one of my paintings that I did when I first got down here. It has a little window. It's the perfect office cutout right in the hallway leading back to the bedroom, and has been great for having an area that feels like a dedicated work zone. It's close to the AC, which is another issue, is staying cool while trying to work from home because it does get so hot here. The other thing that I've had to kind of work my way around that can be a bit challenging is from time to time, the Wi-Fi will go in and out and the power will cut on and off, especially as we transition from dry to rainy season. So what I've done is just try to create a lot of buffer in my schedule so that if I lose Wi-Fi or power for 20 minutes to an hour. It doesn't mess up my entire day. Also, I will say I thought that it would be a huge issue with clients and leads if I all of a sudden didn't have a way for people to get in touch with me. And I've noticed that people are actually extremely understanding and have been in that kind of situation before where they're abroad and all of a sudden don't have access to strong Wi-Fi. So it's less of an issue than I thought it would be. I think it's a matter of preparing people to know where you are and that there are times where it will just simply be out of your control. It's not a matter of the Wi-Fi's out at home, so I'll just go down to the coffee shop. It's more of like the Wi-Fi is out for the whole town. We're going to have to wait till it comes back on. And I've also realized it doesn't just affect me. It also affects like the restaurants that can't run cards, and it affects everybody in town. So we're all in it together, and it makes me really productive with the time that I have. So it doesn't always go out, but on the days that it does, I just use it as an opportunity to go on a little walk, make an extra cup of coffee, read a book, do something other than stress waiting for it to come back on. So I'll make my list of what I want to get done in the morning, but I actually use a project management system called ClickUp to organize my projects, know what needs to get done when. This has been vital because, again, I'm not trying to work more than I need to. And so having a project management system where I've outlined exactly what's required, when it's due by, keeps me from over planning, reinventing the wheel, or scrambling to try to figure out what I need to do next. It's been amazing. Highly recommend. I also use the app Slack to communicate with my team and contractors to stay on top of what we have going on, when things are due, what we need support on. And that's been really helpful to keep me in contact and help things flow really smoothly and efficiently so that I'm not spending more time than I need to working. Because of the heat, the morning is the best time for me to work. So I will usually stay home and crank through as much as I can before lunch. I've been addicted lately to chlorophyll water, and I brought down some Sakara chlorophyll drops from home. So I'll make a really big water the night before usually, put it in the freezer with some chlorophyll drops, and then let it slowly melt while I'm working in the morning and have cold, icy cold water all morning along with my coffee. And every day my work looks a little bit different. So to just give you an idea of what my work looks like this morning, I will be working on a web style guide for one of my clients in London. I'm working on photo selections for a photo shoot that we did with some local girls in town for Femade Jewelry. I'm going to be selecting my favorites, give some editing notes, plan for the next photo shoot. I'll be having a team meeting with Nikki, who is my studio manager, who helps keep everything on track. I'll be making logo edits for an interior designer out of New York. We're really close to wrapping up her project. The second thing I'll be working on are some final logo edits for one of our clients in New York. She's an interior designer. I am so excited about how this brand turned out. It is a very robust and interesting logo palette. She has such incredible taste, and we are right at like the final part of revisions that makes me the happiest because I love working on the little details of making everything just perfect and ready for launch. So I'll be working on that today. And then the last thing I'll be doing before lunch is having a team meeting with my studio manager, Nikki. What we do is meet once a week because she sends out Monday morning reports to all of our clients about where they are in their project, what we'll be working on that week. And I like to go through every single client project with her before sending out that report to make sure we're on track, that there's nothing that we need to move forward, and to just stay accountable to hitting the deadlines that I've set for the projects that we have on board, and make sure nothing extends longer than it needs to. So by noon or 1 o'clock, I'm ready for lunch. And my favorite place to go to lunch is Corazon Surf Cafe. So I'll take my Navi scooter and scoot down to the cafe to have an acai bowl and a flat white with friends. This Corazon is where I've met a majority of my friends here. It's kind of like the watering hole of Playa Negra. It's run by Marina, who's from Peru, and her partner Danny from Barcelona. And they've done an amazing job of creating a hangout spot for everyone in town, both transplants and expats and locals. The layout is so conducive to flowing in, sitting, visiting for a while. There's local dogs all around. People are coming in and out of surf sessions. I highly recommend visiting this cafe if you're ever in the area. It has been my most frequented spot outside of my home and the ocean since being here. Some of the people who are here are working, some are on extended vacation, and I'll usually go down and meet a couple of friends for a bite, catch up on the day, see what people are up to, and take a break from my computer screen before going back for an afternoon session. So for the afternoon session, really the heat is the hardest part. It's really difficult for me to stay motivated at that part of the day because it's not fun to work on the computer when you're sweating and so hot. So I usually save my admin tasks for this time because I can quickly run through them without feeling like I'm mentally drained for creative work. So that's sending out contracts, invoice reminders, following up with proposals, scheduling some of my meetings because I can take a call on the phone, like by the pool or in the hammock, and cool down a little bit instead of being on my computer focusing on creating a slide deck or a document. I'll also schedule any team reviews or things that need my feedback in the afternoon because I just know I'm going to be really efficient with my time because of the heat. And that pool break really is so crucial. It's like 2:30 in the afternoon when the heat sets in, and it is nearly impossible to stay focused on creative work. Usually around 4 is when I start to wrap up for the day and I'm ready to move my body again and get a workout in. So based again on the conditions, sometimes this will be the window when I go surfing. Other times I'll roll out my yoga mat, get some weights, and do a quick workout session using either the Melissa Wood Health app or the Form app by Sammy Clark. I love both of them. They're very travel friendly. I came down with just one set of weights and a yoga mat. And I will say that since being down here, I've gotten bigger weights and I've wanted to do a little bit more strength training than I originally thought, just because up until now, I've just been surfing and doing yoga, and I usually run, but I took a break from it since being down here because my knees were starting to kill me with uneven dirt roads, and I just wanted to try some different forms of exercise. But I've brought in a little bit more strength training and Pilates just to round it all out and also to relieve stress at the end of a work day. My goal is to be done with a workout by 4:30, 4:45, take a shower, and get ready to go down to the beach for sunset. So this is one of my favorite rituals being down here is everyone gathers together on the beach to watch the sunset at 5:30. It's such a great way to catch up with everyone, to bookend my day being outside by the ocean and remind me why I'm here working. If I just stay at home from the moment I wake up until the time I go to bed, it's really easy to think, what's the point in me being here as opposed to in the States? I could be doing this from anywhere, but by beginning and ending my day on the ocean, it gives me so much gratitude and perspective, even if I've had a really hard work day. And to sit with all of my friends and talk about how my day was and feel supported and get perspective and vent if I need to, I feel so much more connected to the community here, even if I can't spend all day, every day hanging out on the beach. And the sunsets here are truly beautiful. Sometimes I'll take a book, sometimes I'll take my camera. Other times I'll just sit and chat and have a beer as the sun sets, and it really is my favorite time of day, and I love that everyone in town prioritizes it. Because most of my work is really solo at home, by the time sunset comes and the evening rolls around, I'm ready to be social. I've usually gotten a little bit of interaction at lunch and some in the morning, depending on if I've surfed. But by nighttime, I want to have dinner with friends. So I'll either go somewhere locally, Zagate, or Kontiki is a pizza restaurant. We'll usually make the rounds based on what's open. Playa Negra reminds me a lot of Livingston, Montana, in that there are like 4 or 5 restaurants that everyone just rotates through, and it's usually just based on what we're sick of and what everyone's willing to go do. The food cost here is a lot higher than it was in Nicaragua. And even from last year to this year, it's a lot higher. And so I have tried to prioritize cooking more. I love having people over, having dinner parties. I like cooking for each other. It's less of the culture here. Back in Montana, I was hosting dinner parties all the time and always having people over for dinner. And I wouldn't say that's really the vibe here as much. People are a little bit more private with their homes. Everyone's living in smaller spaces, and it's just not really conducive to home parties or cooking dinner for each other. But I try to do it as much as possible. And I have just let myself know that I might be spending more on food here, but it's the way to socialize and build friendships and relationships and end my day with some social interaction instead of just being at home. So self-care at night. I have tried to be really diligent about keeping my skin hydrated. After just being in the sun and the salt water so much during the day, it can dry out so fast. So I am always using lotion and oil to stay hydrated. I do a hair mask every couple of days, again, to just try to keep it soft and from dreading, which it has definitely done in the past. Last year, I forgot a hairbrush and I went home and just looked like a feral animal. And so this year I might have overdone it in preparing for the worst. And I'm constantly trying to brush my hair, make sure that it's healthy, that it's not tangly and a rat's nest. I go in and out of reading a lot. So I was reading a book a week when I first got down here, but now I would say I'm not reading quite as much. Also, my Kindle for some reason stopped working, which has been so frustrating and has really messed up my reading habit. So I'm trying to look into that. I think that it might have just been the dust and the heat. Something has made it no longer work. But I go in and out of nighttime activities, but I'm usually trying to be asleep by 9:30, especially with such an early wake up time. I'm not really watching TV or doing anything that would keep me up anyways. And by the end of the day, I'm pretty beat. So that's pretty much what a work day looks like. Typically, it's still quite a few hours of working, but some social interaction and a lot of physical activity. I think some of the biggest lessons I've learned in my life down here in Costa Rica and what routine looks like for me here is one, that I need to take care of myself before I take care of others. I've noticed such a difference when I take a walk on the beach, meditate, spend time with friends, prioritize the things that fill me up and make me feel like the most balanced version of myself. I'm able to approach the needs of my clients and what's required of me during the day with so much more grace, spaciousness. It just makes it easier to show up for other people when I've first shown up for myself. I've also learned since being down here that small maintenance makes a huge difference. I've noticed this the most with my hair and skin, that if you let it go a little bit, you notice it. Like I notice my skin drying out really quickly when I don't daily prioritize taking care of it. I notice my hair dry out really quickly when I don't daily prioritize little habits that add up and make a big difference. And I've also noticed this in my business. So little daily habits make it so much easier than waiting for things to accumulate and procrastinate. And then all of a sudden I feel blown out and stressed out and trying to fit it all in and make it work in one day when I could have done little progress towards a project or a launch over time and it'd be way less stressful. Another thing that continues to kind of be hard, but I'm learning how to deal with it, is being an ambitious entrepreneur in a tourist town. So I felt this way when I was living in Montana before I left, how difficult it was to have such a demanding job and a business that I really care about in a town where a lot of people are just working enough to enjoy the benefits of what brings people there on vacation, whether it's skiing, fly fishing, surfing. You'll find people who have really prioritized the benefits of that town, the hobbies, over any kind of like long-term ambition or big business goals. And as someone who's super entrepreneurial and has really big dreams for my agency and my career as a whole, it can sometimes feel really isolating to be the one that's at home working or needing to prioritize my business, especially Playa Negra. I would imagine there are other areas that have a larger community of digital nomads that you get more of a not hustle vibe, but you have people who are really working towards something online. Whereas Playa Negra is a smaller town that's mainly for people who have come here specifically to surf this wave. And so you get a little bit more of like a chill surfer vibe, and people are prioritizing the surf and they're prioritizing the activities, and it can feel like no one's working. But it's actually, now that this is the second place that I've had to prioritize this for myself, it's actually made it to where I am getting better at communicating why I'm prioritizing different things, not just to other people, but to myself. And it makes me less resentful of the time that I'm spending building my business, because I've communicated its importance and I'm firm and I really believe in where I'm heading and I really believe in who I'm working with. And I think that that's been a huge growth thing for me, to not just constantly fall victim to FOMO and what everyone else is doing and what other people might think about how I'm spending my time, but really commit to the path that I'm on and know why I'm doing it. So, little look at the day in my life here in Costa Rica. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. And that's a wrap on this week's episode of Brands Without Borders. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching the show on YouTube, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. You can also tune in as a podcast anywhere podcasts can be found. You can support future episodes of Brands Without Borders by leaving a review and sharing this episode with your fellow travelers and work friends. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss a future episode. To see where in the world I am, follow me on Instagram at Brands Without Borders Pod, and I'll see you on the next episode.